So you want to fly a drone for a living, right? Well, there's this one word that's going to be your best friend or your worst enemy: airspace. It's like this invisible map in the sky that controls everything you do. And today, we're going to give you the keys to read that map. Look, this isn't just about memorizing facts to pass some test. This is about learning to speak the language of the sky. Getting this down is, quite literally, your license to operate like a true professional and, do it safely. Here's our game plan. We're going to start with the why this matters so much. Then, we'll break down the two basic kinds of airspace. After that, we'll climb what I call the controlled airspace ladder, where things get a little more complex. We'll touch on some special stay-away zones, and then I'm going to give you the one golden rule that's going to feel like a cheat code for the exam. So let's dive right in. Why do we need to obsess over this stuff? Well, because this isn't just theory, this is the bedrock, the foundation of your entire career as a commercial drone pilot. Yeah, passing the Part 107 is the first step, for sure. But this knowledge is what really separates the amateurs from the pros out in the field. It's what keeps your mission safe, what keeps you legal, and honestly, what keeps you in business. Think of it as your insurance policy against some really, really expensive mistakes. Okay, let's get right to the heart of it. The entire National Airspace System, this huge sky above us, is basically split into two main categories. And knowing which one you're in, well, that's the very first question you have to answer before every single flight. Here's the easiest way to think about it. Controlled airspace? That's like driving in the middle of a big city during rush hour. You've got traffic cops, that's air traffic control, or ATC. You've got very specific lanes, and you absolutely need permission to be there. Uncontrolled airspace, on the other hand, is like a wide open country road. Yeah, you still have to follow the basic rules of the road, but you've got a whole lot more freedom. And the good news for us drone pilots is that a ton of our flying happens right here, in Class G airspace. This is our playground, our home base. It's the space where we can typically operate without having to call up air traffic control and ask for permission. For a lot of the country, this is the default. But you're not always going to be out on that quiet country road. So let's talk about the controlled side of things. I want you to imagine we're climbing a ladder. With every single rung we climb, the rules get tougher and the air traffic gets way busier. Okay, first rung on our ladder, Class D or Class Delta airspace. You're going to find this around smaller regional airports, the ones that have a control tower. It's pretty much just a simple cylinder. And the most important word on this slide is right there at the end. Authorization is required, no exceptions. All right, let's step up to the next rung. This is Class C. It's a little more complex. You'll see it has a two-tiered structure, kind of like a simple cake with a small layer on the bottom and a bigger one sitting on top. This is for even busier airports. And just like with Class D, getting permission to fly here isn't a suggestion, it's absolutely mandatory. And here we are, the top of the ladder, Class B, Class Bravo. This is the big time. This airspace protects the busiest airports in the entire country. The shape is pretty complex, but there's an awesome way to remember it. Just think of an upside-down wedding cake. It's got all these layers that get wider and wider as you go up. And you better believe authorization is an absolute 100% must. So you might be wondering, hey, what about Class E? Well, Class E is kind of the everything else of controlled airspace. It's all over the place. But, and this is a huge but for us drone pilots, even though it's technically controlled, you usually do not need ATC authorization to fly in it. It's the big exception to the rule for us. Remember that one. Okay, so we've got the basic ABCs, or rather the BCDGs down. Now we have to talk about the danger zones. These are so important to know, not just for the exam, but because these are the places where you can get into some serious, serious trouble in the real world. Just listen to the names on this list. Prohibited, restricted, warning. They pretty much tell you everything you need to know, right? These are areas where you could find anything from military jets doing training exercises to, live firing ranges. A prohibited area, for example, is over the White House. A restricted area might be a military test site. You have got to know what these are and check to see if they're active before you even think about flying nearby. And that brings us to maybe the biggest trap for new drone pilots: temporary flight restrictions, or TFRs. Just let that quote sink in. TFRs pop up all the time for things like a presidential visit, a wildfire, or a major sporting event. And let me tell you, flying into one is one of the fastest ways to meet the FAA, get a huge fine, and maybe even lose your license for good. So how do you keep from accidentally flying into a TFR or an active military zone? Simple. You check your NOTAMs. A NOTAM, or Notice to Air Missions, is your up-to-the-minute source for all this critical info. Checking your NOTAMs isn't just a good idea, it's a non-negotiable part of your pre-flight checklist for every single mission. Whew, okay, we've climbed the ladder, we've navigated the danger zones. Now it's time to bring it all home. I'm going to give you the one simple rule that will be your secret weapon for nailing a ton of questions on that Part 107 exam. So let's just ask the question straight up. You're sitting there in the test center, you're looking at a question with a sectional chart, and it asks, do you need authorization to fly your drone right here? What's the very first thing you should be looking for? This is it. This is the golden rule. I want you to burn this into your brain. Authorization is all about the class of the airspace, not how high you're flying. It makes no difference if you're flying at 5 feet off the ground or 400 feet. If you are inside the boundaries of controlled airspace that goes down to the surface, you need permission, period. Let's make this real. Picture it. A client calls, they want a roof inspection on a building right next to a small airport. The pilot thinks, no problem, I'll just fly really low. Maybe 50 feet, I'll be way below any airplanes. That is the classic mistake. Because that airport is inside Class D airspace, and that airspace goes all the way to the ground, the golden rule is crystal clear. Authorization is required no matter how low you are. And believe me, this isn't just some tricky exam question. As the professionals at CFD Drone Consultants will tell you, this concept is the absolute bedrock of every single commercial flight they plan. Getting this right is what makes you a professional. So, by understanding these rules, you're doing way more than just prepping for a test. You're unlocking a whole new level of possibility for your drone business. You now have the keys to the sky. So my question to you is, go out there, start looking at those charts, and figure it out. Where is your first authorized flight going to be?